Hi guys, it's Athena. Welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I wanted to do a movie analysis on the movie Blade Runner from 1982 that was directed by Ridley Scott, the amazing Ridley Scott, and his whole team to create such a fantastical and amazing, subjective, deeply layered, analytical film full of amazing fashion, environment, characters, just that throw in some really interesting like life questions and like philosophy and psychology and like just a humanity and just everything and like our evolution of technology as we progress forward. So there's just a whole immersive, amazing world within Blade Runner that I really want to talk about and express my feelings about. And I am doing another voiceover like how I did with the cinema romance video that I did for Mac and Valerie from Earth Girls Are Easy. But I wanted to say that I sort of wrote down on a piece of paper, I'm just going at this like, free-for-all, one shot. I sort of organized the different topics that I wanted to talk about, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to align images exactly with what I'm saying. It's really hard to space out the pictures to match like what you're talking about unless you do it beforehand, and then that can sort of be distracting while you're talking. For some reason, it's kind of hard to talk without seeing myself in the camera. Like, it's difficult to keep a train of thought going when it's just sort of blank and it's just your voice and then aligning images with it, all that. I mean, I kind of prefer that for something like this because I think that the visuals are important and really what I'm saying is more important than actually seeing me. So, without further ado, let's get started for this video. So, I apologize if the presentation of like the images is kind of boring or like they're long and kind of spaced out and not as visually interesting as I'd like them to be. Hopefully I will be able to edit them and actually be able to make something that really fits along with the dialogue that I have. I think that would mean a lot to me and for my viewers as well. But so without further ado, let's jump into this incredible movie. So first things first, let's talk about the environment. I really love the design of the movie and the way that there's this very futuristic metropolis, like kind of post-apocalyptic. It's sort of like decaying. There's a lot of smoke. It's very heavily crowded and just lots of hustle and bustle and in certain areas within like the city, the heart of the city. And it's very interesting. I noticed that Blade Runner doesn't play the rules of a sci-fi movie. It has its own set of rules. This movie is not like action-packed in the sense that it follows the sequence of most sci-fi movies. It's very much in its own vein, in its own lane of film style, and sort of the environment itself is very like visually thought-provoking, and it gives a lot for the viewer to digest, and it's very beautifully crafted and well articulated visually, and like the set designs, the color schemes, just the positioning of everything, the layouts of the rooms and the buildings and the people and everything. Like, the people are just as much works of art as the buildings and the sets and all of that. So that is really amazing. I love the way that this film artistically was composed. I think that it's absolutely stunning. Just let's see, what would be like my favorite set from Blade Runner? I mean, let's see. I'm trying to think. What's the guy's name who Chris meets? I can't remember his. It's something Sebastian. His like sort of room with all of his different like creations and dolls and like figurines and stuff is really interesting. I love that. I love the chase scene where Deckard is hunting down the one girl in the clear plastic raincoat. I forget her name, but she's like a performer, dancer. I believe she's like an exotic dancer, which is like so fabulous and amazing. And she's in the clear raincoat and she's running, and I really love the cinematography and all the people, the way that they're posed and like styled and everything, and the environment of like this really hustle bustle, rainy, smoky, dystopian metropolis with like lots of neon, lots of like very avant-garde fashion, very just eclectic and interesting and visually stunning. Like each character is its own work of art, and there's just so much eye candy in this movie to digest and to think about and to be inspired by. So that's really cool. Next, I wanted to talk about characters. So of course, I'm a little biased, my favorite character being Pris, played by Daryl Hannah. I think that Pris was not explored to her full capacity. I know that I'm a little biased saying that because it is Daryl Hannah, and I know that you guys know that I really love her, but I think that Pris and all the characters, all the replicants, quote-unquote replicant, are very interesting, and I think that they all have a unique narrative, that they all share their own voice, but then they all share one voice, like, connected, in the sense that, like, they all sort of are running both literally and figuratively away from Deckard, away from being hunted. They sort of fight for life, and they're like, I think, therefore I am, quoted by, I think it's Descartes or something like that, like philosopher. I believe there's some quote that I saw of somebody who did an artistic piece, like an art piece of Pris holding a mouse saying, I think Sebastian, therefore I am, which is being quoted by Descartes, who's the philosopher who originated that saying, I think, therefore I am. So I think that that's a really interesting element that plays into her character and each character. This idea that if I'm thinking, then I'm being, and I'm alive, and I matter, and I'm a person, and like a living, functioning entity. Like that's a really big, I guess, narrative of the replicants, is that they want to show that they are people and they deserve to live. And it's just, I think that that is such a fascinating narrative and sort of undertone to like dissect and think about, and even just in our own world and our technology, as we have things like Siri or Alexa and sort of our AI types of personalities and wisdom that sort of help us in our everyday lives, and like just how all of these things play together is so interesting, and like how, you know, we have to look deeper, and like once we have technology that can sort of think for itself, is it its own being? Should it be allowed the free will to exist and go as it wants to, like how humans are allowed to do? So I think that that's a really amazing narrative that I think is a key concept to Blade Runner. And as far as character design, I mean, I think the characters are really fleshed out amazingly. I think that Rachel, each character's styling is amazing in this movie. The fashion is just so on point, so like high key, super high fashion, super just editorial and amazing. Especially Rachel. Rachel really steals the movie for me in terms of her styling, her makeup, her hair, her whole physical attire is just honestly the creme de la creme of everything. It's just cinema masterpiece. I watched an interview where Daryl Hannah talked about how she created Pris, and that each girl who was auditioning for the role of Pris got to sort of do their own idea of what she would look like. And Daryl Hannah talked about how she was inspired by like Nosferatu and like the puttied out eyes, as she says, and like the different things, the different elements all sort of coming together, and that her idea of Pris was very different from the rest of the girls. She wanted to play a more like avant-garde type of beauty rather than like, you know, the more beautiful, classically beautiful look, which I think is really amazing, and I think it fits Pris very well. But yeah, the other character development, obviously Deckard is, I liked his styling throughout the movie. I thought that he was, Harrison Ford did a really amazing job playing him. I think that he's very handsome, of course, and I do like his outfits throughout the movie. I wasn't as struck visually by him. His outfits are sort of more casual compared to some of the women that they sort of were more flamboyant and interesting with. And I think that they could have sort of brought up his attire to be more flamboyant and interesting, but then I wonder if that would have sort of gotten in the way of his character. I don't know if his character really sort of allows for that type of like being played up or being like more visually enticing. I'm not exactly sure if that's really like where his character is at. I think he's more like, I guess for his character, he's not so worried about like the physical stimuli. It's more like his missions are like his focal point and his thoughts and stuff like that. So, sorry, let me take a quick drink of water. So yeah, I think that definitely like he's not so much focused on the physical sense as the other characters are, that maybe need more of the physical sense of styling to sort of balance out how much screen time they get in a way. Like they're more visually appealing so they can maybe keep up and like make up for the lack of like screen time or character development, etc. But that's just a thought. So let's talk about the idea of replicants and sort of like these humanoid android people that are sort of the AI intelligence and are, you know, functioning, feeling people that aren't like biologically created, you know, like created like how we are. So they're all based off of technology. And then one of the big themes in the movie is like, and even the the book that, or the screenwrite, I believe, or it was something, it was a playwright or screenwrite or something like that, or it was a novel or short story called, I think it was a short story actually, called Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? And that title alone really speaks and sparks a fire for one of the major themes of the movie. You know, is an android, is it going to dream of electric sheep like how we would dream of sheep? Is there really a difference between an android and a human in terms of like free will, thinking, being, full consciousness, etc.? Like once we're in a state of consciousness, can we be able to take that away from something? Should that be allowed? Are they less of a person just because they are born of artificial or, you know, like a technological base and origin? Is it different than being a human? Sort of those types of narratives and ideas. And I think that that is just so unique and so interesting. And I love, of course, the 80s and how the styling of this movie is and how they did their futuristic set and character plotting and just everything. I think it's really, really well done. But some of the other themes in the movie, it talks about, you know, like Tears in the Rain, the famous speech at the end. I forget the guy's name who plays it, but what his character's name is, but he has the short, like bleach blonde hair that is fighting Deckard at the end of the movie, and he gives his really famous speech. And it's sort of like, his speech sort of talks about like a lot of different things, like battles that we fight and like time, life and death, of like how our lives sort of work out with life and like time, the meaning of time, and sort of how we play into time and we're here and then we're gone. And or like, I don't know, just maybe for the replicants even, like they might feel like they're here for a certain amount of time and then they're gone. And you know, like Tears in the Rain, it's just like washed away and it's just a drop in the ocean. And it's just a very interesting way of looking at life, like as if we're drops in an ocean, a body of water that continues to grow and expand and form. And it's really subjective to the viewer. And, you know, it's not necessarily like you can put your finger on it and define it. It's definitely something that really allows your mind to sort of flow and think about things, just sort of like, you know, a stream of consciousness, which is really great. I love that. And these themes all tie into real life. I think that people struggle with identity and meaning and sort of like their place in life. And I think that Blade Runner really touches on all of these themes that we as humans deal with. And I think that it's very real to how a lot of human beings feel, not just, you know, artificial intelligence, AI. So I think that that's really great too. There's a lot of like psychological, philosophical undertones to the movie. And yeah, I know that this was sort of like kind of a speed run through of the movie, but I'm at like 14 minutes right now. And I just wanted to sort of give some of my love and thoughts and ideas and analysis to the movie. and just sort of, my appreciation and love for it. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you in my next video, okay? All right, bye.